Hello and welcome to episode 95 of Driver's Seat Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. We're going to get to the news in a bit, but I've got some housekeeping that I've got to attend to. First and foremost, I need to address the visuals. Now, as I said some time ago, I would try to work on the visuals about every 6 months or so. Unfortunately, because of the loss of my hard drive, it's been put on hold for the time being as I'm sort of dealing with more issues that are coming up that I wasn't aware were issues. So I'm going to have to work to get things back to where they once were, but this will take some time. Hopefully I'll get some done by December, but I can't guarantee that. And second off, starting on the first Saturday in December, we're going to have the annual Paint Scheme Awards and the Paint Scheme Leaderboard. I am going to be working on that over the next few weeks. And with that, I'm going to catch up on some news starting right now. I missed some of this F1 news for obvious reasons, but I need to discuss this. Now, I have no respect for F1 as an organization. Between questionable ethics, open corruption, questionable officiating, clear favoritism, and a myriad of other issues, it's hard to find something positive to say about F1 most times. This time, however, I will give credit where credit is due, because in this situation, they made the right move. Now, this is a news story from planetf1.com, link in the description. A fan has been banned for life by F1 after starting a fight in the stands during the Mexican Grand Prix weekend. Videos emerged on Sunday of a fan inside the Foro Sol Stadium section. I apologize for butchering that translation. Foro Sol Stadium section throwing punches at other spectators who were dressed in red. The aggressive fan was wrestled back by other members of the crowd before being escorted away by security. Planet One reached out to Formula One, and they confirmed that the fan was immediately ejected and has since been given a lifetime ban from attending the sport. The incident was an isolated event of violence in what was another well-supported Mexican Grand Prix. Now, as I say, I have no respect for Formula One, but you know what I say to that whole story? Great! Because this asshole spent a lot of money to act like an idiot, and now he'll never get the chance to attend another Formula One event for the rest of his life. Great. Yay. I cannot think of a better punishment for fans who act like assholes to be banned for life from attending the sport they so love. As a fan, I don't care if you're a fan of a sport, you're a fan of theater, you're a movie fan, you like going to concerts. Act like an intelligent person. Support who you love and act like an intelligent person. Fans like these fuck things up for the rest of us. I just watched a video the other day on the Heysel Stadium disaster. Look at what happened to British soccer, especially British soccer fans, after that whole thing happened. Fan attendance to an event is a privilege, not a right. Privilege, not a right. I don't care if we're talking movies, sports, theater, concerts. If you're a fan of something and you want to attend something, there are behavioral expectations for you as a person. Those who act like civilized people, fine. We'll welcome you. Have a good time. Those who act like assholes should be banned and will be banned. And again, I mentioned it earlier, how many association football fans have been banned from attending their teams they support due to fights and bad behavior? A lot. And those numbers will only go up. Good move. I've been to a lot of sporting events over the years. I've seen a lot of stupid shit done by stupid people. They get kicked out, and they should get kicked out. And especially when you're talking about Formula One, which has had, again, I have no respect for F1 as an organization, but they made the right move here. So, these numbers are only going to go up, and we need to send a clear, unmistakable, and coherent message. If you act out, you will be banned. I love this move. Now we're going to stay on Planet F1 because they had a great story about Lewis Hamilton and his lack of self-awareness. Now, at the time of recording, Hamilton has won 103 races and has not won a race since the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Now, in racing, as in every other sport, the balance of power shifts. Some teams might make the right move one year and make the wrong move next year. Some teams make the wrong move this year and make the right move next year. Mercedes was the top team for a while. Now Red Bull is the top team. It happens in sports, no matter what. There was a point in my life not that long ago where the Chicago Blackhawks were one of the worst teams in the NHL. Then they had a dynasty, and now they're back down to mediocre. It happens. So, one Lewis Hamilton showed his lack of self-awareness recently because he complained about how Red Bull Racing is dominant and Formula One should, and I quote, make the right decisions. Now, this whole quote itself comes from planetf1.com, link in the description. Quote, I think within our sport we have to continue to work on making sure we have close racing because I think you've seen the social engagement drop a huge amount this year being that. It's obviously heavily impacted on competition. People want to see that. So we have to make sure we're making the right decisions or the governing bodies making the right decisions to keep us close and great racing to the end. We need more grandstands. I don't know if we need to lower the cost, but maybe, I don't know. Now, we'll address the lowering the cost issue. Yes, you should. See, I don't know if you realize this or not. The more fans that can afford tickets, the more fans will come in the door. I know. It sounds stupid, but it works. Now let's discuss his complaints about how he's not winning. Now, first off, at the time of recording, Max Verstappen has just over half the wins and under half the championships that Lewis Hamilton does. You want to talk about dominance? The only championship that Hamilton didn't win between 2014 and 2020 was 2016. Hell, Max Verstappen would have to win every single race for at least the next 2 seasons, if not more, to have the wins that Lewis Hamilton does now. And he would still be 2 championships short if he did. Lewis Hamilton is the winningest driver in Formula One history, and Max Verstappen is not a threat at this point to take the crown. Okay. And for Lewis Hamilton to whine about this is amazing. How do you have no self-awareness whatsoever? How about instead of blaming F1 for your team's woes, blame the team, blame the car. Or better yet, how about blaming yourself? I know that this sounds kind of amazing, but he blames everyone. People like this blame everyone but themselves when things go wrong. Okay? If you're an athlete and you're in a slump, try changing up your routine. Try something different. Sometimes it may work, sometimes it doesn't. But it's amazing how many of these out-of-touch, really multi-millionaires will blame everyone and everything but themselves for everything that goes wrong in their professional life. And it's amazing how many people will just will never be able to accept any blame for themselves for their problems. He should just take a step back and accept some of the blame for his current situation, but he won't. He's an out-of-touch millionaire who wants the rules changed for his benefit, but guess what? It won't happen. Hell, Ferrari, who has more political power than Hulk Hogan in the 1980s, if they can't get the rules changed to get back on top, do you think that you can? Grow up, Lewis. The balance of power shifts when it comes to sports. That's just how it is. Sometimes you're on top, sometimes you're not. You were the dominant guy from 2014 to 2020, and guess what? You're not anymore. And it's not Formula One's fault. It's not anyone else's fault except you and your teams. Your team was making the wrong decisions, and now you're not on top anymore. And guess what? It's not Formula One's fault, and they're not changing the rules. Deal with it. Now, our final story takes us to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, earlier this year, I praised Las Vegas for their preparations for the race as opposed to the Chicago street race. In hindsight, I now realize that Chicago was better, since the costs and local aggravation were anywhere near what Las Vegas is doing. Yes, Chicago had issues. I'm not going to lie. Yes, the locals were upset. But from everything that I've heard, Las Vegas is 100 times worse. I saw this story on Jalopnik and I was laughing because I just shook my head because of just the amazingness here. This is a full story by Elizabeth Blackstock. Link in the description. I would normally trim stuff out or summarize, but her wording is too damn good for me to do any of that. So here we go. The news ahead of the news ahead. Let me try that again. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I've been at work all night. Okay. The news ahead of Formula One's inaugural Grand Prix on the Las Vegas Strip has not been great since the event was announced, but the attempt to capitalize on the event has only increased. This week, the Taxicab Authority Board decided that all event fares will include a $15 surcharge, allegedly to compensate for the expected influx of non-tipping Europeans. These surcharges will be added to so-called flat fare trips, but an additional surcharge will be added to metered rides as well. According to the Taxicab Authority Board, the surcharge is fully necessary, quote, to encourage full workforce participation, end quote. Apparently, there's some worry that cab drivers will be less inclined to work on the busy event weekend. Not only is the city expecting an influx of European riders who don't conform to tipping customs of the U.S., but traffic is going to be abysmal with the main arteries of the city shut down to facilitate the race. By December 5th, all data collected from the Grand Prix weekend rides must be submitted to the Taxicab Authority Board, where officials will decide whether or not the mandatory surcharge is worth implementing in future years or for other special events, the Las Vegas Journal reports. This so-called quote-unquote European surcharge might not stop at taxi rides, though. Instagram user Vegas Starfish, parentheses, who provides a kind of insider guide to the city, claims it is expected more fees and auto gratuities will appear citywide. The hyper-expensive, I love that term, by the way, hyper-expensive Las Vegas Grand Prix has run into ample amounts of criticism from fans and locals alike. Grandstand tickets priced at $2,500 actually seem to be reasonable compared to the hotel ticket packages that have peaked over $100,000, and many visitors have been disappointed to find their views ruined or their traffic increased as a result of F1 construction. End quote. Okay. I had little faith in Chicago for the Chicago street race, but they didn't have anywhere near the levels of bullshit that Las Vegas has had to go through. And I said this before, you gotta lower the ticket prices. Lower prices mean more people can afford it, and thus more people will come in the door. But even some of the biggest and most passionate F1 fans living in Las Vegas can't care about this race after all of it. This is one of these events where how the event works out is actually a secondary story compared to how the preparation was for said event. It could be the best race of the modern era, but I guarantee you, the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix, it could be the best race of the modern era. It won't be enough for all the controversies and all the amounts spent and all the horse shit that Las Vegas has had to go through for the race preparation. Again, I want this to work out. No, I take that back. I don't want this to work out. I want it to fail. I think that as bad as the preparation was for this, it needs to fail. I'm sorry. Las Vegas made a stupid mistake. They spent more money than it's probably ever going to be worth. I think Formula One has peaked in the United States, and there's certainly evidence to back that up. I mean, you have a market where you have 78 million people were watching races worldwide. It was the average race viewership was 78 million. You know how many viewers the United States had? 1.5 million. It's over. We're a drop in the bucket for Formula One. You've done everything possible to get Americans to care, and your numbers surpass IndyCar, but they don't come near NASCAR. And the Las Vegas Grand Prix is just another example of Formula One's desperation to entrench themselves in the American market. Never going to happen, guys. Never going to happen. And again, I've talked about this before. The Formula One elitism of European fans is going to do you no favors here. I mean, you talk about tipping, guess what? Our sandbox. It's our sandbox. I've said it before. You want to race, you want to have races in the United States? Fine. You play by our rules. The sports leagues that figure this out quickly succeed. Those that don't and who think that they're somehow better, goodbye. Goodbye. Formula One thinks that they run racing across the world, but when they come to the United States, they're a minor player. Them going against the NFL, by the way, is going to do them no favors. Them going against college football doesn't do them any favors. The start time of 10 p.m. Eastern, it's doing them no favors. I'm almost convinced that this is like the producers, where they're trying to fuck this up because they might be able to make more money with a failure than a success. And if that's the case, congratulations, you're actually doing quite well. I like watching racing. I love watching racing. But I'm done trying to make Formula One something that it isn't in this country. Give up, cut your losses, it's over. You've peaked, and there's nowhere to go but down. Now, originally I was going to take a break and then talk about some NASCAR stories. But since I'm going over the TV ratings next week, and the stories that I have factor in to the TV ratings, I'll save those all for next week. Again, I work in a grocery store on the lead up to Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to be as energetic as I normally am over the next few weeks. But I'm Dave Firestone. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.